Very much agree. The INL can be a catalyst for a lot of growth and education that will help build the technology capabilities and great jobs for the future for Idaho.
Thank you, candidates. Mr. Morrison and Representative Zollinger.
Thank you. This is an awesome question, an awesome opportunity, and there's not a better example of defeating hyperpartisanship than George. Since we've known each other for 2 years, I believe we've become good friends, and he's a great example of that. We agree on prison issues, the education, but we're going to focus on education because we think that's the one thing that we need to continue to build up. We're in a great spot right now, and we need to continue to increase teachers' pay. As like George said in his prior answer, we need to value our teachers more because they're important. They're with our children every day.
This is a very unique question, and it's what makes this thing you put on good. So thank you for asking it. And one thing I'll add to that is what Dave Lent talked about, which is the pipeline from the high schools to the college to the community. That's where schools lead to, and that's what makes good jobs and good communities.
Thank you, candidates. This will be the final question of the night, and we will begin with Mr. Lent. For this question, each of you will receive 1.5 minutes to respond. Halloween is tomorrow. Which of your political heroes would you dress as to go trick-or-treating? And what qualities do they possess that will be reflected in your service in the Idaho legislature? Mr. Lent.
Read this. Which one of your political heroes would you dress up as to go trick-or-treating tomorrow night, and what qualities do they possess that you hope will be reflected in your service? Okay, here's a good one. I'm just going to say Donald Trump. Everybody would know who that is. And here's the quality that I think is important. People don't get it with him, but he is really a change agent. He came in the corporate world, we refer to people like him as a change agent. He's not there to make friends, he's there to make change and make things better and break the bureaucracy that has been in place for so long. So I would just go with, that's everybody knows who Donald Trump is, and the reason is because he has the ability to stand up and make change, and he's demonstrated that in the last 2 years.
Thank you, Mr. Lent. Mr. Selkie.
Go out on a limb here, and I will say Albert Einstein, and I will make the argument that he is a political figure. If you think back in his time, he was one of the people that went out and wrote letters to the President of the United States talking about, be careful about the bomb and such. So he was a man who took our scientific knowledge and our history and said, we see problems ahead we need to address in a very scientific and in a very logical manner. So that's who I would. I love the concept of tying policy and science together so we're doing knowledge-based laws and policies.
Thank you, Mr. Selkie. Representative Zollinger.
Well, Dave kind of stole where I was going, but I think I would go with any of the founding fathers. I would probably go with James Madison, the father of the Constitution. I could go with George Washington. They also share the similar characteristics that I really love, and that's the political courage to stand up to burdensome government regulations, taxation with representation. So these gentlemen had courage to set the system. I believe they were divinely inspired. They followed they wanted a system where everybody had freedom. Freedom is the best thing we have as this nation. We're the light on the hill for the world because of the freedoms we enjoy in this country. So it's all of those characteristics of our founding fathers, George Washington, Madison. These are the gentlemen that I would dress up as Halloween because I just admire their courage to do what they did to establish the divine constitution we have that allows us the freedoms that we have in this country, which are God-given rights, and it shows from the great things we've done as a nation and a state.
Thank you, Representative Zollinger. Mr. Morrison.
Well, political heroes, that's a pretty hard category. I didn't know there was very many.
You got to go back to history.
Yeah, you got to go back ways. I would pick Benjamin Franklin because he was a very unique individual, as our country is unique. And one of the things he said in his brilliance was, when asked what happened in the Constitutional Convention, and what did we get? We got a republic if we could keep it. And we've kept it for 230 years. And he was pretty all around brilliant guy and added a lot to our history, so that's who I would go as.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Representative Ehart.
First, let me say, gosh, this has been fantastic, and it's been fantastic to sit up here with these 5 other gentlemen as the only female. But it has been great. Thank you. It's been so phenomenally civil. I love it. If I was going to choose somebody whom I would dress up in Halloween, unfortunately there aren't that many female figures, so I would choose one of my heroes if I wasn't going to choose one of the founding fathers, and that would be Ronald Reagan. Let me share something that he said. He said, if we look to the answer as to why for so many years we achieved so much, prospered as no other people on earth, it was because here in this land we unleashed the energy and individual genius of man to a greater extent than has ever been done before. Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and more assured here than in any other place on earth. Ronald Reagan loved this country. I love this country. I love Idaho. And I will always admire him as he brought people together. And but the one thing that I'll also add that he had, that when I can, I like to use it because it helps. But he had a means about him of using humor, and that humor in such a manner that it would just ease everyone in the situation around so that communication could then be able to take place. And if you can't communicate, you just can't get places. And so I appreciate President Reagan, and I appreciate that humor, and I am not actually dressing up on Halloween, though.
Thank you, Representative Ehart. Mr. DeAngelis.
Well, if I go back in my own personal lifetime, I'd have to say John F. Kennedy. One of the saddest days of my life back in college, I was a sophomore. The day he was assassinated was one of the saddest days of my life. John F. Kennedy wrote a book, Profiles in Courage. Wonderful book. His quote resounds throughout time. Don't ask what your government can do for you. What can you do for your country? It set me on a path for becoming a naval officer, going to dental school. What can I do to serve my country? His other quote, one person can make a difference and everyone should try. It's on my refrigerator. I have a magnet there. It's stuck. I see it every morning. That's what makes us run for office. Think of the things that occurred during his administration. We set up the Peace Corps. What an image for America to go out there and help people throughout the world. It made us look wonderful throughout the world. He set up the space program. We're going to go to the moon within a certain period of time, and damn it, we did it. It's unbelievable. It set science on a path for wonderful technology. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better example of civility, peace, and progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. DeAngelis. Thank you to all the candidates for their responses. That concludes the question and answer portion of this Idaho District 33 debate. I will now pass things back to our Master of Ceremonies, Seth Lay.
Thank you all for coming tonight. We thank all the candidates for their time in coming to this debate. Please give them all a round of applause. The candidates will be available for discussion in the Cyber Cafe, located to the left of that exit. Now that you know the stances of all your candidates, please remember to vote on November 6th. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Early voting is going on through November 2nd, and that will take place at Bonneville County Elections, which is located at 825 Shoup Avenue. Thank you again to our candidates, and I, along with all my fellow students, wish you a good evening and a happy Halloween.